All right, so let's get into our review and then get into a spoiler talk there for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So, Nick, since you weren't here for the initial review, I'm going to let you kick things off. What did you think about Guardians of the Galaxy?
Okay, so I have been very vocal on this podcast and various other platforms about how James Gunn is one of my favorite filmmakers, by pure virtue of the fact that he was one of the first guys that came from just this indie horror scene, and Marvel picked him up for the first Guardians of the Galaxy, said, hey, we're going to give you a $200 million budget to make a movie about characters that are objectively D-listers as far as the pantheon of Marvel goes. We're going to make a movie about Star-Lord, Rocket Raccoon, Groot, and Drax the Destroyer and Gamora. And he ended up making one of the best films in the MCU, period, and making a general audience care about a talking raccoon and a character whose only 3 lines are "I am Groot," exclusively in that order. And since then, he has just been able to grow as a filmmaker, even with the second film getting more insane with his visuals, more grounded in his emotional storytelling, and with his films outside of that very brief tenure where he was fired by Disney, gave us The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, where everything was just fine-tuning his craft to the point where, I am not being hyperbolic, but Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, right now, it is up there with my favorite movies of 2023, and it is in that S-tier category for Marvel movies. I just could not believe that this movie got as emotional as it did, because every time we got into Rocket's backstory, I was just trying to wipe my eyes away. Just wiping tears from my eyes. And on top of that emotional core, the movie is still very funny. It kind of fixes a lot of problems I've had with Marvel humor lately, in that they undercut so much of their drama and their emotion with jokes. And here, they don't do that, and the jokes are actually funny. Like the entire scene where that we see in clips where it's Nebula trying to open the door and struggling, and it culminates into the first F-bomb in the MCU. I was laughing. It was all funny because it felt so real. It felt like, I think I said this before with Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, it felt like natural, funny people talking to each other instead of just stop for sitcom-style jokes. Something I wasn't crazy about was the inclusion of Adam Warlock, who was played by Will Poulter. His character and his arc kind of felt like it didn't belong here, but for what it was, I thought Will Poulter was absolutely entertaining every time he was on screen.
Okay.
I absolutely adored this movie. I cannot wait to see it again. And something that I did mention, Chukwudi Iwuji, who, by James Gunn's own account, is one of the best actors he has ever worked with. He is absolutely despicable as the High Evolutionary. He is one of the best villains in the MCU. And I think Gunn, he kind of took the criticism of Ronan the Accuser with the first MCU villain that he wrote, and how one-dimensional he was, how kind of just nothing of a character he was. And he put it in the hands of one of our great working actors with Iwuji, and let this man chew up the scenery like it was made of M&Ms, and it is absolutely beautiful.
Okay.
It's nice to have a villain that is just unabashedly evil.
So what would your rating be?
My rating, I would have to see it again to be confident about this, but as of right now, just off this high of leaving the theater, I give it This Is Cinema. I absolutely adored this movie. I was laughing in parts. I was crying through most of it, and I was cheering when we got to the final needle drop. And how this was this very bittersweet but heartfelt goodbye to this version of these characters.
This Is Cinema. Okay. For Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3 from Nick. So I'll summarize my thoughts real quick. It'll just be really quick since I already gave my full review. But open on the YouTube channel there. But yeah, I liked it. I really enjoyed it a lot. I think I like it better than the second one. It's about, I think, on par with the first one. I would have to say. I mean, I rewatched the first and second one again very recently. The first one, watching that again, it was an experience because, like, man, I was like, man, this was really good. I mean, it was really funny. It was really fresh. And you also got to think about, and we discussed this in the review of like when that movie came out, because it was 2014. This was when Guardians came out. I think that was phase 2 of the MCU when it came out.
Yeah, that was phase 2, and I think it came out after or right before Age of Ultron, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was right before. It was like a little bit before Age of Ultron, and it's just kind of, at that time it was like the MCU hadn't really done anything like that, where it was so much focused on the humor, and that was the really thing that was selling the movie, was the humor of it. And then fast forward 9 years, it felt like later on a lot of the MCU movies feel too much focused on the humor and not letting it, there was humor before Guardians too, but that, before Guardians, but it felt more natural. It felt more like character based. Instead, I think they really, after that, really tried to push it a lot more after Guardians. And then with James Gunn coming on, you feel it being a James Gunn movie. A lot of these movies, the criticism is a lot of these directors kind of just get hired to be hands, to get, tools to just make these things. But with James Gunn, you feel his personality, you feel like, his kind of characters there, that he really cares about these characters. He's kind of, really doing the best for them with his writing and everything. And I think there's very few directors in the MCU that you can say that about, that their style really kind of comes through there. And I think it does with James Gunn. So I think that's a really good thing with the Guardians.
I think it's maybe just Ryan Coogler and him, as far as like their style is translated and is very visibly seen throughout their projects in the MCU.
Yeah, I would say Ryan Coogler, him, and Taika Waititi. I think his style, his humor very much was coming through there. So Guardians movie, the criticism I had for was the humor in it. I thought a lot of it relied on too much of Drax being dumb, Mantis being dumb, Adam Warlock being dumb. I think, and people calling them dumb. I think that was a lot of the humor in it, and that this wasn't a variety there. Chakotay Iwuji, who comes in as a high evolutionary, very good. I liked him as the character. I liked him as the villain. It did a lot of screaming, did a lot of yelling. I made it.
The man is a classic. The man is a classically trained Shakespearean actor. You don't hire one of those unless you want him to scream.
So that kind of got a little old, but I still think he did a great job. I made a joke in the review. I said that, hey, he's another screaming black man all in purple. You might don't get him confused with Kang. And he even has somewhat of the, similar power set, where he can basically, he's got advanced tech and he can kind of move things with, just his flick of his hands or wrist or anything like that. So that was kind of another criticism I had. But overall, I thought it was, a strong movie. Great chemistry between the whole cast. Loved, the action in it. I thought that was great. The music in it. I don't think the music in this one isn't, I don't think, as integral as it was in the other two movies. The other two movies had such a real purpose because it was a connection to his mother, and then in the second one, it was the whole connection of his father and his mother, and then you had that, like the connection through music. And here in the third one, there's still somewhat of a connection in music because Rocket loves the music too, and they, he always plays it. And then at the end, they do a big kind of thing with the music as well. Did you see the whole thing with Florence in the Machine, where she was watching it?
And she was crying as her song "Dog Days Are Over" was playing through the whole final scene, and same girl.
Yeah. And I like how the music is more varied this time. It's through all the decades. Like you have some from the 70s, you got some stuff from the 90s, you got some stuff, from the 2000s. So it's a little bit more varied here, as opposed to
and there's a thematic thing that I think Gunn was going for with his song selection, because I think because we're going further from the 70s, from the 80s, we're going more into the 90s and into the late 2000s, because so much of this movie is about moving on. It's about going forward instead of just reliving your past.
That's a good point. So maybe there is, that's a good theme with the music there. So I love the way, James Gunn integrates a lot of music into his movies, and with these movies, in order to tell a story. It's not just doing a needle drop just to do a needle drop,
It's not doing 2016 Suicide Squad.
Yeah, or it's not doing Mario movie, where you just kind of just playing just songs there. So yeah, I kind of like that stuff there, and like I said, it's Rocket's movie. The stuff with his backstory is tragic. It's sad, man. I mean, yeah, and it's rough. And hearing some people say that this is too somber, it's too bittersweet, which I was like, I don't know what you people want, because first it was these movies are too jokey, and they undercut all this stuff with jokes.
It's just what the fuck do you people want? So first they're like too jokey, they're too funny, they undercut all their bits with humor, which I've been a party to those kinds of criticisms myself, and now, oh, it's too dark, think of the children. Oh, fuck off.
Yeah,
children grow up.
So I was just like, I don't know what you want there.
There's disturbing material here, especially when it comes to there's disturbing stuff here that when it comes to Rocket's backstory, but no less disturbing that has been in stuff like, say, Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker.
Yeah. So I like kind of how, because you get to see some of, not in full detail, but you get enough to get the gist of it, of what happened to Rocket and the experiments that happened to him. And there's even something at the end with the villain that I'm like, wow, you're just showing that full in front of the screen and everything. I was like, oh, okay. I kind of like that they went there. It's funny that these movies, had a lot of, they were the main ones pushing the humor, and then here it ends in such a dramatic note. I was like, oh, okay. And when the overall, and then of course when any of these new ones come out, people discuss the overall state of the MCU and what this means, and compare, all the other movies and blah blah blah.
Anytime a new movie in the MCU drops, just ready your timelines for thousands of like dude bro think pieces saying like, the MCU, it's gone woke, it's failing, it's bombing. Meanwhile, it's the first fucking weekend.
Yeah.
And people are loving the movie.
Yeah. So as far as the bigger context is the MCU in regards to that, I know a lot of people says like with this phase of the stuff, and then from 4 to now we're in 5 after Endgame, just basically everything after Endgame, people just go like, I'm just kind of done. Everything is up and down and just too mixed for me as far as, quality goes, or, will this kind of turn you around in that? I don't know. I greatly enjoyed it. I think this is the one the only MCU movie besides Wakanda Forever I can say I really enjoyed and really liked, and thought was very good. All the other ones I just kind of thought were kind of just meh for me. So I could say that, if I don't know if this is going to be the big thing that goes like, I'm back in the MCU again. But if you just wanted to see the closing chapter of the Guardians, if you watch the first one and you go like, I really love the first one, and I know some people are kind of mixed on the second one, but if you just going like, listen, I just kind of want to see this close out and everything like that, I think this movie does a good job in that, and I think you will be rewarded if you want to come back and watch this, and to see this story close out. So let's get into did that. And my rating for it was, I would give it a strong tune in for me. With Guardians.
And I think a lot of the positive reception, especially for all 3 of the Guardians movies, is because they feel so disconnected from the rest of the MCU. Because they feel more like a director's passion project versus something like a Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where that felt like anybody could have done this movie, and you're telling the wrong story for the wrong character, just to push this new villain that is coming with Kang.
Yeah. That's the thing about these movies, is that it's the Guardian story. It's their characters, it's their universe. The post-credit scenes are within their characters, within their universe. It's, nothing, we're not getting teased another Avengers movie or another something else where, that's it. It's just the Guardians movie. So it's big spoilers for here. Nobody dies.
Yeah.
Nobody dies.
Yeah, the plot. Yeah, the plot is kicked off by Adam Warlock coming to nowhere and just fucking up all of the Guardians, but especially Rocket, who is basically dying throughout 2/3 of the movie.
Yeah. Are you disappointed nobody dies? Do you think it needed to kill an original member of the Guardians? Do you think that needed to happen?
I think killing a character is only necessary if you can't get the same emotional reaction out of the fear and the tension of that loss. Because I feel like when you think about it in the previous two Guardians movies, especially in their involvement in Infinity War and Endgame, it's nice to see characters catch a break once in a while because these characters have already been through so much. Like Quill's already lost both of his parents, and Yondu and Gamora. And for 5 years, Rocket and Nebula lost their entire family with the Guardians. And I think just all the emotional build-up to that fear of losing Rocket, that worked enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I one of my criticisms I couldn't really talk about in the non-spoiler review is just that I do think there were a lot of fake outs. There were a lot of, I don't know if that was done, probably on purpose, for like the trailers and everything like that, because like there's a scene like where they're carrying Peter Quill and Nebula has her. You think that's going to be maybe a scene where he dies, but no, he's just drunk. You know what I mean? He's just fucking drunk.
He's just drunk, and she's carrying that 35-pound lifelike body that James Gunn apparently let people come in and scream.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, that did look really good when he showed the behind the scenes of that kind of lifeless corpse. Yeah, that looked
that corpse was funny, and that's one of my favorite like media moments of all time. Now it's just they're in the interview, and it's like, yeah, James Gunn used to have it in his office. Yeah, people would just like see it and just come in and scream. It's like, wait, they would do what and scream? And just that realization of James Gunn.
So you have that. There was also the scene like with Drax where, he gets shot in the back and then he gets shot in his chest. That was kind of just like, it seems like he was kind of gravely injured there, but then in the next scene, it's like, oh, he's okay. He's fine. So it's like, that seemed like just like a, kind of a, there wasn't really a whole lot to that. Even I think Nebula, like she's coughing up blood.
I mean, dude went toe-to-toe with Adam Warlock in this movie, and Nebula has come back from way worse.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in terms of, like, if you're trying to, like, I guess it just seemed like that was only done to go, like, oh my god, maybe Drax is going to die. Maybe he's going to be the one that dies. You know what I mean? Like, just as used as just a fake out there to kind of do that when they're escaping the whole kind of facility there. Yeah, so I don't think this movie needed to really kill it.
Yeah, for me, it's only it's only a fake out if your story needed a character to die, but you just didn't do it. And I don't think this story required any character having to die, because I think you still get that emotion. You still get the emotion of the goodbye to these people, even without killing any of them.
Yeah. So I still think you didn't need to kill anybody. You know what I mean? In this to make it impactful, to make it.
Yeah, in a sense, both of the previous movies are about kind of overcoming loss, and in this one, it's much more about overcoming your past and your own trauma. Yeah. Whereas the first two were more about like personal loss.
Yeah. So I don't think you really needed that. When it comes to the post-credit scenes, we'll discuss that a little bit. So you have two. One is kind of important, and then one is more important. So the first one is usually more important. That's the mid-credit scene. So at the end, there's a new Guardians team. Rocket, he's the him and Groot are the only two original members that stay. All the other members go.
Rocket's the new captain of the team. Kraglin, who is now mastered Yondu's fin, he's a part of it. Adam Warlock joined the team, and so did Cosmo the space dog.
Yeah. And the other, the girl that they saved from the ship, the one that was the High Evolutionary's subject, I think her name is her
name is Phyla. Her name is Phyla.
So she's also on the team as well. She was one of the girls that they saved on the ship there when they were evacuating it. So that's the new team. That's the new Guardians team there. This discussion is like, would we want to see another Guardians movie with this new team? Is there even interest for another Guardians movie if James Gunn's not going to direct it? Because he's done. He's going to be with DC now. He's got that all. He's got to do all that stuff there for DC. He's directing a Superman movie.
He's writing and directing Superman Legacy, and he's the co-CEO of DC Studios. So, as far as Marvel, he's done.
Yeah, so he's not coming back. So it's like, is there even going to be any interest for a Guardians movie if James Gunn's not there? Would you want to see a Guardians movie if James Gunn's not there?
I don't know if I'd want to see another Guardians movie, because so much of what made these movies work was all of those personal touches from James Gunn, like his style, like his use of needle drops, how he films dialogue and writes. But I kind of got this idea that even James Gunn in an interview said that, I have no problem with them making another Guardians of the Galaxy movie, just whatever director they hire, make sure it's their own style, because that is something that is a key to making one of these movies work. It cannot feel like it's just another product being churned out to sell a toy, or just another thing to set up the next big bad in the MCU.
Yeah. Because, if you do another Guardians movie and you try to replicate it, you know what I mean? It's like a lot of people are going to be going, but it's not like the original. It's not like James Gunn. If you try to bring in like some fake James Gunn, it'd be like, come on, like try to do the needle drops and all this other stuff. It's just like, it's just not going to be the same. I'm wondering, I'm trying to think. It'd be like season 4 Community, where they brought on different writers and showrunners to try and do Dan Harmon's style, but those writers didn't understand what made that style work. Yeah. Having a friend who dates underage girls, that's what makes that style work. So I mean,
I don't. Wrong, but.
I'm trying to think of who would be a good on the spot here, who would be a good replacement for Gunn if they kind of get another director. So I don't know if there's even a lot of interest there for Guardians if they, do another one. I mean, do I think these characters are going to come back in a capacity? Yes. I mean, you're not going to put in Adam Warlock in it, and not bring him into the broader things, the bigger things.
Because Adam Warlock is such a major player in most of the Marvel universe, in the comics at least. I know he was a big part of the Infinity Saga when in the comic run, but obviously stuff changed. So there's some interest in what do you do with him now. But Marvel has done a really good job with the special presentations, so something in that realm would be really cool to see.
Yeah, and they are going to, they did say at the end of the Christmas special, they are going to do another Christmas special. They did say that. But again, that raises the question, James Gunn's probably not going to be doing it because he's off doing the DC stuff. And then I know that there's the other character, the one who's a little girl, you said Phyla is what you said her name was?
Yeah, Phyla.
I was seeing that so in the comics, she is supposed to be the daughter of Mar-Vell. I think obviously they're not going to do that because she was created by the High Evolutionary, and we don't even really get to see like what she does or like her powers or anything like that. But that she might play into a larger thing, maybe Young Avengers type team, because she's a kind of little girl, and a lot of these other actors, they're kind of somewhat in their mid 20s, going to late 20s, early 30s. So whenever we get they better hurry up and do these Young Avengers film, because most of these people being there close to being 30. You know what I mean? You got to have some good young people there that can actually, so it could be the Young Avengers. So I think there's plans for her. And everything like that. So I think these characters will return in some capacity. And then the other post-credit scene that we see is the one with Star-Lord, where he returned to Earth and he met his grandfather, played by the same actor who was in the first one, who played his grandfather there. So he's just was like, hey, I just want to go back to my roots, go back to my home, and everything like that. But they did say at the end of this movie, the legendary Star-Lord will return. And I was listening to a show, and then they were talking about the press run for this movie and how a lot of the other actors said like, I'm done. This is it. This is the last one. I'm not coming back. Like Zoe Saldana's Gamora said, I'm not coming back. This is it. I'm not going to do another one. Even though actors say that, then a big truckload of money comes up and be like, hey, listen, we got all this money. You're going to come back and do another one. But Dave Bautista said the same thing. He's like, hey, I'm done. I'm not coming back as Drax anymore. I'm done with that. So could Star-Lord, Chris Pratt, he could probably, it seems like maybe him been on Earth. You need a team for a new Avengers to fight Kang, coming, and everything like that. So it probably seems like that's a way they're going to bring him back and do that. And then that's a connection because he's with the Guardians. He's going to, the connection to the Guardians. So he's going to give a call and be like, hey, I need some heavy hitters to come down here to Earth to help me out. So that's where you get the other Guardians team to kind of come down there and help out, and the connection to bring them in there. What do you think about that? About the two post-credit scenes in general? Yeah.
Okay, so for the first post-credit scene, I like the new team that is being set up. I like the dynamic that we got to see so briefly with Rocket being the new team captain, seeing how Adam Warlock interacts with that team. I think is a fun dynamic, and I kind of forget how underrated Will Poulter is as a comedic actor because he had me cracking up through most of his appearances, through most of his scenes in this. For the second one, that felt kind of like... Really, we stuck through the end credits for this, but it was nice to see Peter Quill kind of be a little bit out of his element, just interacting with his grandpa, and that scene got me before that. But I do kind of say that, yeah, there's no way they're letting this character go, because, well, there's no way Chris Pratt is letting it go, because, well, it's one of the few franchises that people actually like him in.
Yeah. Yeah, because he says this. He's got Jurassic World. Now
he's got Mario.
Mario, yeah, he's got Mario too. So he's got 3 big franchises under his belt now. That's going to be happening. So yeah, so he said I think he says he wants to continue playing Star-Lord, everything like that. Again, he's probably going to come in and out, more of a lesser role. With Bradley Cooper as like the other actors, like the 2 people they kept as the original members, they're all just 2 people who do the voice roles, none of the actually showing. So I would imagine it's probably not that hard Bradley Cooper to do both, of like doing the voice for Rocket and then going off and doing a more indie art project that he probably wants to do, just doing the voice role for Rocket. So I imagine that's probably not too much of a big commitment for him to do. So it's just
a couple hours in a recording booth in LA.
Just doing that real quick, doing a couple of scenes, it's doing some voice work there. Those are the 2 post credit scenes. Rest of the movie, like I said, it's pretty heartbreaking there. I mean, the scene where you see the flashback where his friends Rocket, you see the flashback of him dying. That was pretty. I was like, damn.
I was so hurt by that scene, and just the understandable just sorrow turning into rage, and then Rocket just absolutely mauling the High Evolutionary. Meanwhile, Florentice are just screaming, "Rocket Florentice, go now!" I was like, God damn it, Dunn, you're doing this to me again.
Yeah. And, I mean, he did a good job, too, because, even though they were kind of like, people...
Yeah. Yes. It was like when they revealed what the Evolutionary's face looks like later in the movie, I was like, damn, bro.
Yeah, he really did look like Skeletor. I mean, he really did look like Skeletor there. But then, the creatures that they had there, like the walrus, whose teeth, and then the otter, who's Lila, who's voiced by Linda Cardellini, who has, she plays Clint Barton's wife in it. She played that, and she joins the list of Marvel actors who've appeared twice in the MCU, because Michelle Yeoh, Jima Hansu, and Gemma Chan, they've all appeared twice in it.
And technically Alfre Woodard also.
Oh yeah, Alfre Woodard, because she was in Luke Cage and she was in Civil War. Alfre Woodard.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Linda Cardellini get a role with a little bit more teeth to it. No pun intended.
Yeah. Whenever that movie comes out, I don't know if it's still going to come out, but Mahershala Ali is going to be Blade, and he's going to also join that list as well. If that movie,
so 5.
yeah. So if that ever happens, but yeah, like you said, But yeah, I mean, it really, I mean, because they're the core of the movie. I mean, Rocket is really the core of the movie, and then really a lot of the sad stuff happens to them, and then you really feel that. And then you look at them, and they kind of look like these, creations that he's done. It's like a good comparison. A lot of people compared it to like Sid in Toy Story, like what he did to the dolls and everything like that, especially that rabbit. Like that rabbit, I was like, okay.
Like, what did you do to this rabbit?
Yeah, I'd be like, if I had met that rabbit, I'd be like, get the hell away from me. I'm sorry, the tarantula legs and the red eyes and all that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, the tarantula legs are a little too much for me. It's like, oh damn, but your voice sounds so sweet and so innocent.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, that's a little freaky for me. That's a little freaky for me. But it was just kind of like that scene with Mantis where she was freeing everybody and she met that little that I don't even know what to call that blob or whatever. Yeah, it's like that blob or something like that. Like, yeah, I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. But did you like kind of the climax of it, the big kind of ending of it, the big action scene? I know they have their hallway fight here that's in this garden.
The climax of this is awesome. It's just this long fight scene, long single take fight scene set to No Sleep Till Brooklyn, and it's amazing. It's something that I think was kind of missing from stuff like Daredevil and stuff like The Defenders when they tried to do the one takes, where you incorporate multiple characters and showcasing all of their skill sets coming together in this one scene.
Yeah. Yeah, so I really liked it a lot. And they had Rocket had its classic pose, like from the comics. They did that. They did the whole Rocket jumping on Groove firing. They did Nebula, like her neck got all the way hit back, snapped back, but she kept firing, kept hitting. So yeah, they did all that stuff. That I thought that was a really cool scene. Them freeing everybody was a great scene, and Drax had touched into what he does best. And he's a dad, and they brought that all around, and he was able to comfort the kids and guide the kids, and so that's his purpose. He may be dumb, it's like it's not his fault he's dumb. But
the only thing you care about is intelligence and competence.
Yeah.
But I think I was kind of on there too, where I felt they Homer Simpsoned a lot of the characters in the Guardians, but that one bit of dialogue left me a little more forgiving. It was like, yeah, he's an idiot, but he's family.
Yeah, but it's like going back and watching the first one and then the second one, I was like, because the first one, he takes things very literally. Like, that's part of the humor is that he takes everything literally. Like the famous scene where, in the first one where they're in prison together and he does Peter Quill does the whole rub the finger across his throat, and he's like, why would I do that? Why would I rub my finger across my throat? And it's like, no, it's you know what I mean? It's a metaphor, for
like that. It's like they're completely literal metaphors that gotta go over his head. Nothing would go over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I would catch it.
Yeah. So that was just the only thing with him, but I do think they kind of made him dumber and dumber as things progressed, I think, and everything like that. But and I think that was kind of some issue there of like them being dumb. A lot of stuff in the movie happens because they're dumb. Like Mantis, it's like if Mantis and Drax just do what Peter Quill tells them to do, is like just stay by the ship, then they would never be on the ship, on the high evolutionary ship, and then they wouldn't have to go and rescue them from the ship. So it's like a lot of things just kind of happen because they're kind of dumb. What do you think about that? What do you think about that?
I think it's kind of serendipity of, these characters all kind of being very dumb, but it leads them into doing these very heroic things. Like if they'd listen to Quill and stay on the ship, then they don't rescue all of those little kids in the high evolutionary ship. And Rocket doesn't get to face the evolutionary again. He doesn't get that bit of closure.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, I think that's good, freeing everybody, rescuing everybody, and then from the children to the animals, that was a great scene, I thought. Poor woman though, who got that monkey who was clawing her face. I mean, she didn't really have a good time. The one that was waiting, I was like, damn, she was getting fucked. I was like, damn, poor woman. I was like,
Yeah, but let's not forget this is another James Gunn movie, and he is not afraid to kill thousands and fuck people up
Yeah, so I
in his
was.
movies because in like both this and the previous one, like when Ego was in the initial phases of expansion, he definitely killed like thousands of people because so many people were caught in the middle of that. This movie, they literally blow up Counter Earth, which was a fully functioning society.
Yeah, just like that. Just like people you met, boom, it's just gone, just like that. And that's part of the reason what I think helps turn Adam Warlock. Even though one of my other complaints is like Adam Warlock, you can just take him out of the movie entirely, and nothing pretty much would change. But the whole thing is like he in that amidst of that explosion on Counter Earth. Elizabeth Debicki, she dies. Alicia, who's from the Sovereign, who was his mommy, it was his mother there. You know what I mean? And she ends up dying there.
She could be my mommy too. I mean, what?
Yeah, I mean, well, hey, when you're, I think she's like what 6'3". I think she'd be able to do that when she's like 6'3". So, yeah, yeah. So that helps kind of turn him and everything like that over to the Guardian side and against the High Evolutionary. Yeah. Do you think? Do you feel kind of the same way that they can just kind of removed him entirely from the movie and nothing would change? Do you think?
I don't think just taking him out of the movie changes everything because he is really the inciting incident. He initiates the inciting incident of Rocket being critical for most of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you could have done that with any other character, kind of like they could have, like High Evolutionary could have got one of them Rocksteady and Bebop rip-off looking creatures and sent them to, you know what I mean, nowhere and got them to hurt Rocket or something.
But we also saw how easily the entire Guardians was able to take those guys out.
Yeah. And you see kind of like that was kind of another thing where you see like where you see his compound, the High Evolution. He's got all these different creatures there, all these different mixed match of like it is like something on the island of Dr. Moreau, like what the actor Chukwudi Iwuji said. Like he was basically he's a space, you know, island of Dr. Moreau type thing for, you know what I mean. Like he is kind of like that, and then you see that a lot in the stuff there with a lot of the kind of the creatures he keeps there working for him and everything. Yeah. I'm looking forward to, you know, to see kind of what they do next as far as the Guardians stuff. If they do another Christmas special, if they do another sequel, sure, I'll check it out. But I just don't think it's going to be hard to find somebody who is going to be as good as what James Gunn's done with these movies. So that is going to be really difficult to kind of do there. MCU wise, do you think like, because next up is the Marvels. After this is the next movie. Do you think that this is going to carry some good favor with people going into the Marvels? Do you think the Marvels is going to continue that as far as being at least a solid movie? I wasn't really a big fan of Captain Marvel myself, but I'm hoping this one's better. Like, what do you think?
Well, technically, the next project up is Secret Invasion, and I think a lot of people are very hyped for that and how different it looks for the MCU. And I think the Marvels kind of has that going for it also, because it kind of feels it feels like it's distancing itself from a lot of the MCU storyline. It feels like it's doing its own thing rather than just going so hard into setting up Kang the Conqueror.
Yeah. So I think in order to restore a lot of good faith with people, because a lot of people, I mean, they keep saying that, you know, they say this with everything, you know, MCU's dying, Disney's dying, whatever, all this other stuff. But I think you need a good ball rolling of projects, you know what I mean? At least 2, 3, 4 in a row that are good, and then you can have a slump one, and then you can have a not so good one. You just have to start a streak with these things. But
I think they need to get back on their Phase 3 energy, where they had 4 back-to-back bangers. Yeah. 4 back-to-back movies that are all low A tier to S tier.
Yeah, because I was looking at it. So the phase in which the first Guardians came out. Do you know the other movies that came out in that phase? I mean, I have the list pulled up.
Yeah, that was Phase 2. That was Iron Man 2. That was Thor. That was excuse me. No, Phase 2. That was Dark World. That was was Iron Man. Was that Iron Man 3?
Yeah,
That was
so
after? Yeah,
so the
that was
list.
Iron Man 3, and that was Winter Soldier.
Yeah, so phase 2 was Iron Man 3, Thor, which Iron Man 3, I think when it first came out, people were kind of divisive on it. Then more people have kind of warmed up to Iron Man 3. I've warmed up more to Iron Man 3. Thor the Dark World, that's still considered one of the worst MCU ones.
Rightfully so.
Captain America Winter Soldier, that's still considered one of the best MCU ones. Guardians of the Galaxy, where we talked about, it's one of that and Winter Soldier, one of the few great MCU movies, or just great movies, I think, just in general. Not even MCU movie. I just think it's a great movie in general. Age of Ultron, people are kind of mixed to meh on that. And then you had Ant-Man, which again, people are kind of just like meh on it, I think, overall. So I think when you look at that phase, I mean, you have two real big standouts, which was Guardians, and then you had Winter Soldier. And then you said, and you mentioned phase 3 for you was like the big one.
Yeah, that was the big back-to-back phase where they just went crazy with Civil War, with Doctor Strange, with the two Spider-Man movies, with Thor Ragnarok, with Guardians 2, Infinity War, and Endgame. Yeah, that's when they went off.
Yeah, and Ant-Man and the Wasp was there as well. So, and you had Black Panther, who was there as phase 3 as well. So yeah, Captain Marvel was also phase 3. So you have some really, like, Thor Ragnarok. Out of all these ones, Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War are two of the great ones I consider there. Out of all of those, but yeah. So if you got to have like kind of a ball rolling there of like some really good back to back projects there.
And I think that's something that Marvel Studios in general has kind of really been one of the few that have been able to course correct and to learn from their mistakes, unlike a lot of franchise filmmakers do. I feel like every phase, Feige at least historically has been, okay, this didn't work in this movie, so how can we change and improve that?
Yeah. So next up on the schedule here, from phase 5 and then going into phase 6, so you have Captain America New World Order, after the Marvels. You have Thunderbolts, you have Blade, then going into phase 6 is Deadpool 3, Fantastic Four, Avengers Kang Dynasty, and Avengers Secret Wars. So that's what you got.
And out of those projects, the one I'm most excited for is actually the Thunderbolts. But that's mostly because you have Jake Schreier and Lee Jun-Lin, who are the writers and show directors for Beef that just came out this past year.
Ah, okay. And I'm looking at his filmography here. He did Robot and Frank, which was a very good movie with Frank Langella.
Oh shit!
That was kind of a smaller film, which was pretty good there. So that's what's coming up there. This Guardians movie, Guardians 3, your favorite one? Do you think it's right below the first one?
I mean, I just rewatched the previous two movies and the holiday special just recently. I think this is neck and there right there with the second one, because as much as I adore the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I think the second one and its emotional beats just hit me a little bit more. I just personally put that one above the first, and 3 is right there with it.
Nice. Hello, Whitney. How's it going? A cat named Whitney is
Hi, Whitney.
In the chat. She is the princess of Twitch. Yes. If you guys want to give her a follow, check her out. Let her know what she's a great streamer. Love following her. So support her if you can. So you say it's kind of neck and neck for you there.
It's neck and neck for me with the second one. I have to rewatch the third one again, which I am planning to.
Yeah, I'm gonna see the third one again. I was trying to do it before I leave, but maybe I'll just see it when I'm in whatever. I'm gonna see it. So I'll just do that there. So it was great talking to you about this. Did you want to? So this is Cinema for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I gave it a strong tune in there. That was our spoiler discussion.